Welcome to the Resilient Mindset Podcast, an exciting new podcast by Resilience Queen, Justine Martin. Justine is the owner and founder of the Resilient Mindset, a division of the Justine Martin Corporation. Justine draws on her years of experience and knowledge consulting with clients to develop and sustain a positive mindset. Focused on igniting your passion, purpose and power, follow the Resilience Queen each week as she delves into the mind of her guests, exploring fascinating stories and inspiring journeys.
Founder and CEO Lianne has been on her personal development journey since early 2021. After escaping a physically and emotionally abusive relationship, she realized that she was attracting the same type of toxic partner over and over again. She realized she was the common denominator in all of those relationships and knew it was time for a hard reset in order to begin healing her deep-rooted wounds. Welcome back, listeners. Today with me, I've got Lianne. How are you today?
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for the invite.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So let's get into it. What does resilience mean to you?
Honestly, my story, I feel like is the epitome of resiliency and really bouncing back from some pretty traumatic moments. I'm a domestic violence survivor for those who are meeting me for the first time and an advocate. And that whole experience really brought my definition of resiliency to another level. I've gone through some pretty toxic, traumatic, devastating relationships in my adult life. But I really honestly feel like the relationship that I had most recently that ended in 2021 and the way that it ended in a very violent and traumatic way really just changed me permanently into a woman that I wouldn't even recognize if I was looking at her from back then to who I am now. So I'm sure we're going to get into more of that now. But yeah, I feel like I am the definition of resiliency. I hope that doesn't come off like
I'm sorry that you went through all of that. I have a very similar story recently, 2 years ago, and I'm still carrying the wounds physically from that. And it's just been, horrific. Mine ended up I had to have surgery from it. And it's never okay to touch or hit anyone, regardless of their sex. But domestic violence doesn't just happen to women, it happens to men as well. And I think we need to be aware of that.
Absolutely.
It's never okay. So, Lianne, that's obviously an adversity that you have faced. And how did you draw on your resilience to cope?
Oh, man. Honestly, hitting my rock bottom after I escaped that abusive relationship, I really, really did like a hard reset in my entire life. And it was kind of forced upon me with the way that that relationship ended. I was living with my partner at the time and I physically had to escape him because it got to the point that he almost took my life. And I share all about it in full detail on my podcast. I invite anyone to listen to it. It's episode 10. I can send it to you if you want to link it in the show notes.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks.
Yeah. If I tell you the full story now, we're going to be here forever. But, hitting that rock bottom moment, having to leave my apartment, losing my job, my unemployment running out, moving back home with my parents after being on my own, like life and God, I believe in a higher power, whoever you believe in. But me, I honestly feel like God shook me at my core in order for me to really take a look within myself, to start healing the deep-rooted wounds that have been sitting inside of my spirit even before that relationship. And it really took something very earth-shaking and life-altering in order for me to finally wake up and finally listen to all of those little red flags that I've been ignoring, not even just in that relationship, but practically my entire adult life. I found myself still being in these toxic type of relationships, even though it was a different person. But every single time I was in a new relationship, that person was just a little bit more toxic than the last one. So
I have such similar stories, Lianne.
Yeah.
Because I did exactly the same. Like when the bones got broken, it was like, I've got to stop doing this. You know, it's just becoming more toxic, every relationship that I'm getting into. And I did go and seek professional help, and I did go and address all the trauma throughout my life, and, you know, just wound it all back to the bare bones, so to speak. And, you know, walked in and went, I don't want to keep repeating this. Why is it repeating? And I read in your bio and that, you know, the one linking factor in all of this was you. And the same with me. The one linking factor was myself. And it's like, I have to change. I can't keep doing what I'm doing. And you know, I've seen a counsellor for the last 10, 12 years, and the same counsellor, and every 2 to 3 weeks I go and see her. And, you know, she'd been telling me repeatedly, but it hadn't been sinking in. And then it took this, and then took someone else to tell me as well that, and they told it in a slightly different way. And they said to me, I don't know about you, but they said to me about protecting my inner child. And, you know, I do have children, and it's like, well, would you, if your daughter was in, or son was in this situation, what would you be saying to them? And I'd be saying, oh, you know, get the hell out, don't be in there, can't you see that? And they're like, well, why aren't you saying that to yourself? And I'm like,
that's powerful.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a almost 14-year-old too, a daughter, just me and her. You know, I've been a single mom since she was 2 years old, and that relationship with her father fell through too. And, you know, I realized in my pattern of having these toxic type of relationships, like, I'm setting an example for her to feel like this is okay, and this is normal, and this is how you should define love. And I realized, you know, that I don't want my daughter to repeat the same cycle that I experienced. And the funny thing is, well, it's not really funny, but for me personally, my parents are still together. They're high school sweethearts from Puerto Rico, came to the mainland, you know, for a better life, still together, married. They had arguments, but it never got to the point that, like, it was physical or they were calling each other names, all of these things. So domestic violence and that type of toxicity was not normalized for me growing up. And I think society tends to paint this picture that if you are in an abusive relationship, you must have seen it growing up, which is common for a lot of people. It's not. Exactly.
I didn't either.
Yes. And that's why I bring that up, because there's such a stigma when it comes to these type of relationships that, like, oh, she saw it growing up, so of course she's going to repeat the pattern. But like for me and you, I didn't know what domestic violence was until after I was out of that relationship. I never heard of it, never saw it. So yeah, I'm just grateful to have this conversation to normalize that, like you said, it's going to happen. It can happen to anybody. It doesn't matter how you were brought up, you know, your social circle, what's in your bank account. It affects everybody.
And I think, like, I don't want to get sexist or anything here, but I think it's harder if a man is on the receiving end of domestic violence. Yep. Because of the stigma of it. And then very few men actually go to the police, right? Because of it, because they're embarrassed, because their wife has been beating them. Yeah. And it should all be eliminated for a start. Exactly. It should never be happening in the first place. Right. But it needs to be normalized that you know, it happens on both sexes. Absolutely. As well. And you know, I grew up in a home without domestic violence. parents, but I grew up in a home with trauma. And I grew up with a narcissistic mum, and I'm not blaming my mum for my choices. Yeah. But there was a comment that you said that trauma and love together, and that was the pattern that I was conditioned on, that in order to feel like I was loved, I needed the trauma aspect in there. I needed that narcissistic person, because my mum was a narcissist, and that was how I was shown love. And so the men that I picked at an early age were narcissistic. But boy, they escalated in every relationship that I've had. Absolutely. They've just gotten worse. And I can remember one particular guy I dated about 2 years before the one that broke my arm. I'd been with him about 3 months, and he just disappeared and promised me the world, and then disappeared for about 3-4 days, and I kept sending him text messages, and he'd gone to Sydney supposedly on work. And he then turned around after the 4th day, rang me. I sent him a text message saying, "Are you with your ex?" That, there was no other explanation for it. Yeah. And he turned around and sent me a message. Oh no, actually rang me and said, "Yes, I'm with her. She's sitting beside me. By the way, I've never loved you. It's been a lie from the last 3 months." And unfortunately, I'm the type of person that, and it's been conditioned, and that's, it's evolved, I suppose you want to say, is that when I fall fast. Yeah. And I was absolutely devastated. And I remember my counsellor saying to me, "He's not the worst one that you'll encounter." And I'm like, what? Because, here I was devastated, and this man had done this. And I'd allowed it to happen because I'd ignored those red flags. Right. And she was right. He wasn't the worst one that I would encounter. But I can tell you now that the one that caused the physical damage, and I'd been beaten previously in my past as well, and by other men, the pattern changed. What about you, Lianne?
Yeah. I mean, I can relate a lot to what you said in regards to the scenario where he told you, like, "I never loved you. You didn't mean anything to me." That same situation happened with my ex, the one that almost took my life. Like, that was the start of the night of everything happening. He told me that he was cheating on me with 7 different women, and he was just using me for my apartment and my car and my money and all these things, really just saying some really nasty things, because he knew that I got to the point that I was done. Like, I that night, I'll never forget, like, I went to my best friend's apartment, like, 5-6 hours before, and I told her. She didn't know, nobody knew in my life what was going on in regards to the physical abuse, but I told her, I was like, "I'm not happy anymore. I've reached the point that I just don't want to continue dealing with this toxicity, because it was physically and emotionally and mentally draining me." And I told her I was done. So I think before everything happened that night, he kind of sensed that, like, the power and the control that he had over me, the manipulation, the lying and all of that, it was over. Like, I had reached my limit. And then progressively throughout the night, it got worse. But yeah, I can relate so much to everything that you said. And I think, not that I'm glad that we can relate, because this is definitely not...
It's not a club that you want to be in.
Exactly.
It's not something that you go out and choose to live your life this way. Right. It's a circumstance from circumstances that we've put ourselves into. And look, I don't blame myself. Yeah. But I see my responsibility. I don't even know if that's the right word, but I see what led to it, and I saw what my choices made in ignoring those red flags.
Absolutely. I think a lot of us do too. There was definitely red flags.
Majority.
Yeah. Especially in the beginning when it's like the honeymoon phase and you think this is your soulmate
The
and
love
everything.
bombing.
Yes, the love bombing. Yes. And I know that word is like very trendy and people love to throw it around, but it's a real thing that happens in these type of relationships, right? So in the beginning, of course, it was like rainbows and butterflies and I found my soulmate.
Flowers and chocolates and champagne and
exactly.
trips out and away. And,
exactly. And that can only last for so long. And then the subtle little, I want to call them like orange flags were there. Like, you know, something that just kind of questioned me just a little bit to like, I don't know if this is right, but I'm going to ignore it anyway. And then progressively they started to turn red and then they started like flashing and then it progressed into,
because they gaslight you as well. Like when you question something and every cell in your body is telling you that something is not right. They are the master manipulators in twisting it around that whoever they're talking about or whatever has come back in, that they're at fault and they're making themselves out to be this shining armor. I even sat next to him going to court because his ex had taken an IVO out on him. And made her out to be the bad person. She'd even contacted me early into our relationship and told me that he had physically hurt her.
Wow.
But he built her up as this monster and everything, and I was believing
Why do they always do that? My ex did the same thing. Can I tell you something? Can I tell you something? Like, I'm going to be so real. I'm not going to hold back. So same thing with my ex. When I first met him, he told me that the mother of his child, his baby mom, was Satan spawned, like the worst human being. He absolutely hated her. She was the reason why he was in prison before. Like, she was the devil. 6 months into our relationship, after the manipulation and all of that, he's trying to have us be a throuple. Like, he wants us to all be in a polygamous relationship and have this blended family. And I'm just like, but I thought you hated her. Like, that's such a thing that a lot of these abusers do. Like, that would be a red flag that I would tell anyone. If they bash their ex and take zero accountability for the demise in that relationship, that is a huge red flag to me.
Yeah.
Huge red flag.
Oh, a red flag for me now is if they have had any involvement whatsoever with the law, whether they've had an IVO put against them and it's been dropped off. No, I'm out of there. There's so many now things like this big long checklist, and it's like if I wouldn't want my kids dating him, well then I'm not going to date him.
Exactly.
And you know, protecting what's in here.
Yeah.
And you know, people are like, oh, why are you still single? Well, you know, I choose to be single. I've had a really bad track record. I mean, I was dating a beautiful guy last year and 12 months after the whole broken arm thing. And I never fully gave my whole self to him emotionally. And
which is understandable.
Yeah, it is. And he understood that. Yeah. And then, unfortunately, I found him dead on the floor. And
wow. I'm so sorry.
Thanks. And then I was angry because of the previous relationships and the damage that was there, and because I'd held back, that it was still ongoing. The trauma was still there. And so I've been working on, you know, all of that as well. Yeah. What techniques have you used, Lianne, to get through the adversity and to gain the resilience? I mean, it's very brave of you to be sitting here with me today and sharing your story, and I thank you. And I'm sure there's a lot of listeners here that know someone who's in the same predicament as what we've been in, or maybe them themselves are in that situation and not knowing how to get out of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how did you gain the strength? What did you do? How did you change?
Few things. I want to start off with sharing a quote that I actually have right next to me. And I'm like, I know I'm going to share it in this episode. The first thing that started the trajectory of my change was taking accountability. Yes. And I know that's also another very trendy word, but me looking in the mirror and realizing, like I said in my bio, I was the common denominator in these types of relationships. So clearly there's something about Lianne that needed fixing. And that's a hard pill to swallow. I'm going to be so honest. People don't want to hear it. Like, no, tell me all of the tips. What did you do? Looking in the mirror, taking accountability. So I got this quote from Dr. Phil. I love Dr. Phil. I don't know if you do, but I love Dr. Phil.
I used to watch him, but I run 7 businesses now. So watching TV is a luxury item.
I work from home, so I have the luxury.
Yes, look, so do I. But I have read a couple of his books, and I liked him back when he first got started. Not so much when he became Jerry Springer kind of thing. So, But anyway, let's get back to your quote.
Absolutely, yeah. So the first part of it was the definition of the word insight. So insight is the ability to see and understand why you do the things you do. Yeah. The ability to see oneself without distortion. Yeah. Insight is the number one key to change because you cannot change what you do not acknowledge. Yeah. And when I heard that quote, I was like, accountability. Taking responsibility in my own role was the first step in order for me to really change, make it a permanent change, right? Mm-hmm. The second step for me was asking for help, letting people know what was going on and realizing that I don't need to do this on my own. I told my family, my immediate family, my mom, my dad, my daughter, and my sister, if it weren't for them, I would not be here today because they helped me so much in probably the darkest moment of my life. And I worked with professionals. I worked with 2 life coaches. I worked with a psychologist. I, went to therapy. I did the work. I had these resources around me that allowed me to be vulnerable, to open up, to talk about the uncomfortable things that I never spoke about before with no fear of judgment or shame because it's a third party person who doesn't know me from a hole in the wall. It's not like I'm talking to my mom, which I love her, but she can be super judgmental. But, speaking up, asking for help, taking accountability, and really taking my time. Like with you, I'm going on 2 years because all of this happened in 2021, March of 2021. Since that moment, I've dedicated healing myself and not using other people as like a Band-Aid, a temporary Band-Aid. I used to be that type of person who I go through a breakup. I don't want to feel this pain. I don't want to be alone. So let me find someone else immediately. No. Yeah. Clearly, And
a narcissist will jump straight into another relationship.
Exactly.
Straight away and every single time. Because they can't be alone. They can't sit in their own space.
Exactly. Yep.
And I strongly believe, Lianne, I don't know about you, but you have to heal from the relationship that you've just come out of.
Absolutely.
In order to be full and whole again before you commit to someone else.
Absolutely.
And there's no time period on that.
Nope.
It may take you 6 months. It may take you 2 years. It may take you 5 years. You may never heal from it.
Exactly.
But you got to do what's right for you. But you do have to seek external help.
Yeah.
I'll tell you now, you can't do it by yourself.
You can't. And I was always that type of woman who, I got it. I'm good. I don't need help. I don't need therapy. Yeah. Therapy is for crazy people. That was my mentality. Yeah. But, you go through these life experiences that really shake you to your core. And I realized I got a lot of shit about me that I need to change. Yeah. And I can't do it alone.
Yeah. And, I've said this in the podcast before, that asking for help, whether it is emotional help or, looking into the patterns that you're doing, seeking a counselor, or even if it's business help,
right, is
a sign of strength.
Absolutely.
It is never, ever a sign of weakness. Do not think that you have failed by asking for help.
100%.
It is probably the strongest thing that you can ever do in your whole life is ask.
Absolutely. For help. And being vulnerable.
Being vulnerable enough to ask for it. Being vulnerable is a sign of strength.
Absolutely.
Don't ever think that it isn't. I mean, I love Brene Brown's vulnerability TEDx talk. I think everyone should watch that.
Yeah.
So where are you now in life, Lianne? So you're a couple of years down the track. You've got a beautiful smile on your face today.
Thank you. Yes.
You're putting your message out to the world, but where are you?
I'm a brand new woman that I never knew existed inside of me. I'm thriving. I'm healing. I'm changing. I'm just so in love with the person that I'm becoming. And I'm so thankful for all of the experiences that I've gone through, because if it weren't for them, I would not be sitting here today with this smile on my face. I wouldn't have started my podcast that was originally for me to share my story of overcoming abuse and just different life experiences. I would not be sitting here becoming this beautiful goddess of a being that I am, and I'm grateful for the good, the bad, and the ugly. Yeah. And I feel like I'm learning to really know who Lianne is. And it's been such a journey. I don't want to put it out there that every day is rainbows and butterflies and I'm just thriving and killing it, because, there's some days that I'm struggling. There's moments that I get triggered. I was diagnosed with PTSD, and that is something that I still deal with to this day. Granted, it's not, the triggers don't come as often as they used to, but every single day is different. But I know every single day it's another step forward in the direction that I want to be in.
Well done for you. My counsellor, and this might resonate with you, with something that you've just said. So my counsellor said to me, it was only a couple of weeks ago, the choices that I'm making nowadays and the person that I've become is the person that I would have been 30 years ago, that I should have been growing into 30 years ago. Yeah. But it has taken that step back and stripping the layers back like an onion, going all the way through into that deep core, into that deep seated, belief that was in there, and changing that belief. Yeah. That has resulted in me being a totally different person on the inside, which then reflects back onto the outside. And that was the person that I should have grown into. I was raised without boundaries, or very, very few boundaries. My mum was very ill when we were growing up, and so my dad left when I was quite young, and so those boundaries were never really installed. My brother was fortunate enough in his early teens that he started dating his now wife, so they've been together for 30 years, and or longer, actually 35 years, and his family took them under. Her parents took him under their wing, and so he was taught boundaries through them and that family unit. But I wasn't. I was the black sheep, so to speak, of the family, and that resonated all the way through. I'm very, very grateful that both my children, despite the crap that I went through, have turned out relatively normal. Yeah. They're both in loving relationships, and my son's married and my daughter's getting married this year, and I've done something right with them. Yes. They're both in loving relationships, both married, and his mum's still single on the side.
It's so okay. But everyone's journey is different.
That's exactly right. And I also wouldn't be the person that I am today, and you wouldn't be either, Lianne, without going through everything and, you know, spreading the message on helping as many people as we possibly can in our journeys. And well, that's why we both have our podcasts. I mean, mine is, you know, overcome the adversities and sharing people's stories on that, and yours as well.
Yeah.
So who are your role models in resilience?
I would definitely say the women in my family. My mom is the definition of resiliency. She's gone through so many traumas, so many physical ailments. She's a 2-time breast cancer survivor. She had 2 partial knee surgeries. She had a hysterectomy. She had fibroids. She's gone through so much. And looking at her, you would think, oh my God, really? You know, and I know she has a lot of deep rooted wounds that have not been tended to. And I don't think she ever will, because she's, you know, 60 something years old, stuck in her ways, old school Puerto Rican. I can't change her, but I can love her for who she is. But, you know, everything that she's gone through and what she's done for this family. My sister is also another. It's only me and her. She's 3 years older than me. She recently got divorced, left an emotionally abusive relationship after 10 years, is a very successful business owner and entrepreneur. And I just have so many women in my life, in my family, that you don't need a man to define you. You don't need anything but yourself. Like, you can have your own back, and whatever it is that needs to be done, you're going to figure out a way to make it happen. And I have such great role models in my life to just emulate and try to aspire to be like.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, you've got to be happy with yourself first.
Absolutely.
Another person in your life, so whether it's a man or a woman, don't wait for them to make you happy. You know, be happy in your own world, in your own life. And when that happens, then you'll attract the right person into you. But if you're waiting for someone to make you happy, I'll tell you now, you'll never be happy.
Absolutely. And
You've just attracted the wrong person in there.
Exactly. And that's why I think it's so important, like you said before, to take that time to heal from those relationships.
Yeah.
I never took that time until recently. Like, I'm going on 2 years of no dating, complete celibacy, like nothing, and really just pouring into me and learning how to be comfortable with me and feel whole by myself, filling up my cup to make sure that when I'm ready to pour it out into others, I still feel so completed, even if it's empty, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it takes that time.
And because when you date a narcissist, they drain that cup every single day.
Very quickly.
Yes. The abuse starts very, very quickly. As soon as the love bombing stops, it starts. And they are different inside the home to outside in the public. So to start with, your own family doesn't realise that there's much going on, that there's wrong things. Yet, as soon as you walk in through that front door, it's like a snap, and they instantly change into this other toxic person.
Yep.
And then they'll be nasty to you, and they'll gaslight you, or they'll beat you, and then there's a bit of love bombing coming back again.
Of course. I'm sorry, I love you, I'll never do it again. Yeah. And then they do it again, and it's worse.
Yeah. And every time it's a little bit worse.
Yep.
A little bit worse. So how do you now cope with pressure?
That's a good question. In what context? What do you mean?
Well, if you're under a stressful situation, or, you're stressed, and how do you cope? Some people will go to the gym. Some people eat.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I'll put it in the context of like when my triggers come up, I allow myself to feel that feeling in that moment and not run away from it, which is something that I would do all the time. I would pretend like it didn't exist. I would just stuff it down and be like, I'm not going to deal with it until I'm by myself and no one is around me. And I'm not going to show my vulnerability in front of anyone. But now when those moments come up, instead of hiding from them or being scared of them or running away from them like I used to, I allow them to be. I allow them to feel. I see them. I give them a name, a scenario, a face. And then I say, okay, you got to go. Because if I stay in this moment for too long, I'm going to go and start feel like I'm regressing back to the Lianne that I've worked so hard to heal from. We're not doing that anymore. And that's a technique that my psychologist, Dr. Lambert, told me about when those moments come up, to allow them to be in the moment, just picture them. And then once that feeling passes, just release them like a balloon in the sky and continue on with your day. So that's really been helpful for me, along with journaling, writing out my thoughts, recording a podcast episode. I had a trigger come up a couple weeks ago, and I recorded a podcast episode and I released it. And I told people how I was feeling, that, you know, I was having a sad girl day and I wasn't feeling my best. And that was super therapeutic for me to get it out of my system. Going to the gym too. I've gotten back into my whole, you know, workout regimen. I had weight loss surgery 3 months ago. I'm down 50 pounds. So excited about that. And
congratulations.
Thank you. And, you know, just the movement and getting out of the house, changing the scenery definitely helps as well. And breath work is
picking
huge
up the phone and talking to someone. As well. You know, you don't have to do it alone. If you've got a really good support network, and I think that's, you know, one of the foundations of it all, with any pressure. Like, so if we're talking pressure at work, you know, talk, get it out there. Don't eat your feelings. I used to eat my feelings, or I'd go and have sex.
Me too.
Or shop. So mine was shopping, sex, or eating. They were my 3 coping mechanisms for the pressure that I was feeling. They aren't anymore. I've worked through that. So, you know, now it is to journal, like you, to write it all down, to go and walk, go to the gym, or pick up the phone and bloody call someone and say, I'm having a really rough time. I need to vent. I need to talk. I need a hug. I need someone just to sit and listen.
Exactly. I was going to say that. I don't need you to say anything. I just need you to let me dump it out and be like, okay, I hear you.
Which is why I tend to journal a lot, write a lot, and then it ends up in books.
Right.
So,
I love that. I love that for you.
Yeah. And because I find if I put it down on paper, I don't have to carry it in my head.
Exactly. That's how I feel when I plug up my mic.
Well, same thing. You're putting it out there as well.
Exactly.
So we've kind of brushed on what you do for self-care and your personal wellness and that as well, and you look amazing.
Thank you. I feel amazing too.
If you're listening to us today out there in podcast land, and you want to see what we both look like, I'm not looking particularly fresh as what Lianne is
You
today.
look gorgeous. Stop it.
I've actually got another bloody head cold, so I nearly cancelled this morning, and one of my girlfriends turned up, and she works for me, and she's like, how are you this morning? I'm like, I'm really sick again, which is like permanently for me with all my health issues. And then I'm like, I sound like a frog. And she goes, oh, you do sound a bit funny. And I'm like, I've got a podcast to do today.
Oh, well, I appreciate you.
Are you going to cancel it? She goes, are you going to cancel it? I went, no, I'm going to soldier on and I'm going to do it.
Oh, my God. I appreciate you. You could have canceled if you weren't feeling well, but you're doing great.
The show goes on. Hence why if you are watching this, you'll see me that I'm drinking lots and lots of water for the sore throat. And I've actually done a couple of rat tests in the last 2 days just to make sure that it's not COVID.
I know.
All right. So can you think of one of your favourite movies that features a person's inner strength to get back up?
Enough with J-Lo. Like that immediately comes to mind. Oh my God. I mean, it's all about her being in an abusive relationship. And, you know, that was the first thing that immediately popped to my mind. And I'm not going to spoil the ending for you since you didn't see it, but she does what she has to do to take her power back.
Okay.
So yeah, I definitely recommend you guys checking it out. I mean, J-Lo to me, she's just the epitome of like a boss, businesswoman, mother, entrepreneur. She's Puerto Rican too, like me. So of course I gotta love her. I gotta show her love. But yeah, definitely check that movie out. Enough.
All right. We'll definitely watch that.
Yeah.
Did you ever watch the Dirty John series?
Mm-mm.
So it was very triggering. I watched it. Yeah, it was very triggering, but oh my God, it was spot on. I'd recommend you watching that. So
Okay, yeah.
Netflix brought it out as like a mini series. I think there was about 6-8 episodes in it. But they also brought out, so it was based on a true story. And they also brought out a documentary on him as well.
Oh, okay. I love me a documentary, so I'll definitely check that out.
Yeah. It's well worth watching, and the abuse that he did to these women.
Yeah.
And the gaslighting, the narcissistic. Yeah, it's definitely worth watching, and, you know, an insight to it. So I watched it as, you know, part of my healing journey.
I mean, it's happening everywhere.
Oh, yeah, and it doesn't matter what race, it doesn't matter what gender, it is
religion.
Happening. It is happening. Yeah, religion. It's everywhere. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's got to stop.
It has to.
It just has to stop.
Yeah, and that's how we normalize it, by having these conversations, right?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And, you know, especially the next generations that are coming up. So, you know, I've got a 3-year-old grandson, and, you know, I've had surgery, finally had surgery on my arm. It took nearly 2 years to have surgery to repair it, and I've just had the cartilage repaired. So the bones were broken in half, and they repaired. They repaired 2 years ago. But he also damaged the cartilage and the ligaments in the wrist, and I ended up having to have the top of the bone cut off and the cartilage repaired. I thought I was going in for a couple of stitches to have the cartilage redone, but no, it was a lot more complex than that. But, you know, my little 3-year-old grandson will come in, and the first thing he said to me was, "Oh, the bad man hurt you." And I'm like, yeah, that's right, he did. And I said, and it's never okay to hit or touch anyone. Yeah. So, you know, I've been trying to teach them, you know, the lesson in it as well. You know, don't hit your brother, don't hit your sister. Yeah. Don't hit anyone. It is not okay for physical violence anywhere.
Can I ask you a personal question, if that's okay? If not, you can edit it out. But did any justice legally come from what your abuser did to you?
I was too scared. I was too scared. And he made me feel that it was all my fault. Yeah. Yeah, way too scared. He knew how to get in the house, and I felt that a piece of paper wasn't going to stop him, and I was too scared. That's probably my biggest regret, was that I didn't go forward in doing it. Yeah, you know, I've had loss of income from it. I'm sure. I'm an artist as well, and, you know, I haven't been able to paint and draw to my capacity. I haven't been able to do any art whatsoever in the last 2 months. Yeah. This time round, it was nearly 12 months when it was first broken. And just, you know, the mind game with it all. But yeah, he gaslighted me to the point where he made me feel that it was my fault that my own arm got broken, my tailbone got broken, my arm, I had a hematoma on my head the size of an egg. And if it wasn't for the fact that I laid on the ground, I couldn't get up. It happened in my own home. That my Apple Watch called the ambulance. That it was then a 3-hour wait to get an ambulance to take me to hospital, and he took me to hospital, and I sat there sobbing. And we'd been drinking, and it had been New Year's Eve, and we'd been drinking, and I said to him, "You just broke my arm." And you know what his reaction was? He got up and walked out of emergency, and he left me there. And then I had to beg for him to come back. And I can't believe that I begged for him to come back.
Yeah.
But about 3 hours later, he actually came back into emergency and then picked me up and took me home. And he was here for about 4 days afterwards. And then it all blew up again. And I'm like, get out of my house. And then I continued, idiot me, because he, come back again, to be with him for about another 6 weeks. And then he started seeing someone else, and I became the other woman. And I'm like, no, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You want more in your life for this. And he thought he could have two of us and play the two of us. And, that was it for me. He made contact about 8 months later. It was quite early in the morning. And he sent me a message through one of my business pages. And when he was still seeing her, and I ignored it. I was actually sitting outside the hospital waiting to go in for hand therapy from the damage that he'd caused, and he expected me to reply. And And then recently he'd started following me on Facebook, and I know that because he'd liked one of my photos, and I think he'd liked it either by mistake. I don't know. I don't care. Anyway, he's fully blocked now. And, the lesson has been, unfortunately learnt the hard way. But, I've done the work within myself now that repeat behaviour. I won't allow anyone to treat me that way again. I deserve better.
Absolutely.
I am not that person 3 years ago when they came into my life.
Exactly.
I'm not that person. And even, some girlfriends I've dropped out of my circle of friends because they're toxic.
Yes.
I look at people now in a totally different light of that toxicity in there. What about you? Did you have yours charged?
Yeah, I mean, I can agree with you 100%. I really feel like the power of community has been super healing for me. And truth be told, 90% of the people that I really connect with are people that I met online that I've never seen in person.
Yeah.
And that started with me sharing my story, and the feedback, and it was just so overwhelming how many people could relate, because I felt so alone when I was in my own situation. I didn't think like anyone could relate to being in an abusive relationship, and just finding those type of people and curating the people that I had in my life, the things that I was consuming on social media and all those things have been so beneficial in my own healing. And I really think it's super, super important for us to do that when you're in this personal development journey. Like, the people that you keep around you, as cliche as it is, it says a lot about you. So if you have those type of toxicity people, those type of toxic people in your life, you need to reevaluate, take some inventory, make a pros and cons list. If that cons list outweighs the pro, they got to go.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And I've said this repeatedly throughout the podcast episodes. We are the sum of the 5 people that we hang around.
Absolutely.
If you're hanging around with toxicity all the time, well, it's going to rub off on you in some way.
Right.
And a lot of the time it'll be that they'll knock you down. They don't want you to succeed. They'll say that they do, but they don't.
Right.
They want to be in the limelight. They want the attention around them.
Right.
They won't help people.
You don't see millionaires hanging out with broke people, okay?
No, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. I like that one.
Yes.
I'm going to use that quote.
Absolutely. It's the truth.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've got a question here, but I think we've already covered it. And has there been a time in your life where you've been in survival mode? And we both have. We both have. And how did you cope? Well, we coped excellent because we are here now today sharing our story.
Exactly.
Would you agree?
1000%. If it wasn't for those experiences, we would not be sitting here right now having this conversation.
No, that's right. So what guides you to find purpose now and direction?
My podcast.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, I feel like I've found my purpose in sharing my story, in meeting incredible people like yourself and the people that I featured on my show, and having them share their own stories of not just abusive relationships, but whatever trauma they're going through and they've been able to overcome it. I feel such a sense of power and it's so hard to explain, but I honestly feel like I found the reason why God placed me on this earth. And for it to have come from the darkest point of my life to see what it is continuing to grow into, oh my God, like, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for my podcast and just my life experiences in general, because
So, Lianne, have you thought about writing a book?
Oh my God. I keep getting this question, and I've had a couple of intuitive readings with different, very spiritual people, and multiple people have told me that they can see me writing a book, like it's going to happen.
Let's have a chat after this, because I actually own a publishing business.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And I do, we have what's called Morpheus Writing Group. So my publishing business is Morpheus Publishing, and we do a writing group twice a week. So I do one. So these are Australian Eastern Standard Daylight Savings Times at the moment.
Yeah.
So it's 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. on a Monday night, and 12 till 2 on a Friday. So the Friday one might fit in with you, because that will be your evening one. But I can send you all the details, and I'll also put this in the bio, guys, for anyone else that's looking at writing their own book. By all means, come along and do it. It's quite reasonably priced to be a part of, and I can take you through the whole journey of writing that book, cover designs, everything like that. So then we publish it.
Yeah.
And I really believe that you have such a strong story there, Lianne, that let's have a chat.
Absolutely. I mean, I keep hearing it, so I think God is trying to tell me something. So I think
and here I am in front of you.
Right. This is not a coincidence.
This is not a coincidence. Yeah. Maybe we could do a collaboration book or something like that.
I would be honored.
We'll have a chat after camera and after we get off air.
Thank you. Awesome. Absolutely.
So I'm going to lighten up the podcast now. I've got some quirky questions for you. If you won $10 million tomorrow, what would you spend it on?
Getting rid of all of my family's debt and my debt, and then go on a really lavish vacation.
Come to Australia.
Yes, I would love to, but I'm scared of flying. That's a long flight.
Well, just do it in stages. You'll have $10 million.
It got to be first class.
Country to country.
First class all the way.
Well, you could sleep for a lot of it.
Right.
If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
My dream is California. I know it's so like, oh, you want to live in LA? I do. Like, I want palm trees outside of my window and 70-degree weather every single day and just people running and smiling. People are so happy in California. I went there once. So yeah, that's my dream.
What was your favorite subject at school?
Art. I don't know if you can see, but I'm an artist as well. And I'm such an art geek. I love painting, photography, drawing, all of those things. I got it from my dad. He taught me everything that I know when it comes to art.
Are you a Pisces?
No, I'm a Virgo.
Ah, I'm a Pisces.
Yeah.
So have you got your artwork on Instagram or anything like that?
I actually used to have like a hand painting business when I was in that relationship, but for obvious reasons, it didn't last, but that's okay. But yeah, I dabble in it every now and then. I am actually a graphic design college student right now. So I'm still following my art passion.
That's
Thanks.
awesome. Okay. So, pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
With ham. I need the salty and the sweet.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's a book that you'd recommend to my audience and why?
Ooh, I have so many right now. I would say Atomic Habits. I'm really enjoying that one right now. Okay. Yeah, I just started it. It's by, oh my God, I can't even see. Hold on. I'm going to Google it because I can't see. I wear contacts and I'm blind.
While you're doing that, I'm going to ask you another question.
Yeah.
What's one question you wish that I'd asked you, and how would you have answered? It's all right if there isn't one. Sometimes.
I think you did. First of all, I think you're an amazing podcast host, and
thank you.
No, absolutely. And I'm not just saying that to say it, but honestly, I don't think there's anything that we didn't cover that I would want to talk about when it comes to, these type of relationships. So
yeah. Cool.
James Clear, that's his name, James Clear. Atomic Habits by James Clear.
I'll have to look into that one.
Yeah.
Okay, another quirky question: tea, coffee, hot chocolate, wine, beer.
Well, I don't drink alcohol anymore. Coffee makes me pee a lot. I like water.
Me too. I pretty much only drink water.
Yeah. That especially now with my weight loss surgery, like all I drink is water with lemon. So
yeah. Well, I can't even have the lemon anymore. I'm histamine intolerant, so that wipes out all of them.
Yeah.
And I'm lactose intolerant, and I'm wheat intolerant, and anyway, the list goes on.
Yeah.
What's your favorite food?
Sushi. I love sushi.
The second guest in a row.
Really?
Sushi. Yeah. What type of sushi?
I like tuna. I like calamari. I like shrimp. I keep it kind of basic. If it's like eel, I'm not doing that.
Jamie's yesterday was what was it? Sea urchin.
No, that's too exotic for me.
And I'm like, oh no way.
No thanks.
No way.
I'll stick with the salmon.
Well, I'm not allowed salmon. I'm not allowed fish. And I can't have sushi because I can't have the vinegar that's in the wine, in the rice, the rice wine vinegar. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
So sushi's off my diet list. Okay. Does the toilet roll hang forwards like a beard or backwards like a mullet?
It's over. If it's underneath, no. You're toxic if it's underneath. I'm sorry.
Maybe that's the thing we need to, like, when we're with a new partner. Is it forwards or backwards?
Yes, it's another red flag.
Yes, that's right. That's exactly right. Okay, Lianne, where can my listeners find you online if they want to make contact?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for this conversation. I loved everything about it. I adore you. Like I said, you're an amazing podcast host. So thank you for the invite.
You're most welcome.
Absolutely. You can primarily find me on Instagram. That is my home. I'm constantly on the stories going live at Watch Us Thrive Podcast. I also have a YouTube channel that I'm really focusing on this year where all of my podcasts for season 2 are being featured video and audio. I have a website, wutpodcast.com, where all of my episodes are. There's also a blog section that you can check out when I feel inspired, and my newsletter. I recommend you guys sign up for it. I'm not going to spam you. I only write to you when I feel inspired or something major is going on. So you can definitely sign up there. I'm on TikTok, I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, all those things, but primarily is my website, Instagram, and YouTube.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And we'll pop all of that which I do have your bio, Lianne, into the description in the podcast and the vlogcast and the book as well. That is coming out towards the end of the year.
To be determined.
Look, this has been, a very special interview for me today.
Thank you.
Thank you for being so open and honest with everything that you've shared. And if you're listening today out there and, some of this has, hit home to you and you are in a relationship that is abusive, please go and seek help. Please go and, tell family, tell the authorities, and get the hell out of that relationship, because it is never, ever, ever going to get better. Ever
Absolutely.
will it get better. And the longer you stay there, the more abuse that you're going to get, because they will never stop.
Nope.
Never. Because they're not doing the work on themselves to change who they are, regardless of what they tell you.
Right.
And regardless of how hard it is, whether they are the father or the mother to your children, you need to leave. You need to walk away. You need that protection of your inner child yourself.
Yeah. You need to love yourself enough to want more for yourself. And it's uncomfortable, it's hard, it's scary, but it can be a life or death situation. And
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
It can all escalate just like that.
Yep.
Just like that.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Well, it's been a heavy one today, but, thanks for hanging in there with us. And until next time, you know the drill. Stay resilient.
With over 11 years public speaking expertise, Justine thrives on delivering a powerful and empowering keynote to audiences of all sizes. From a packed room of 500 people to an intimate gathering of 50 people, Justine will command the room with her inspiring journey and engaging antidotes. Email hello@justinemartin.com.au to book Justine for your next event. We hope you enjoyed the Resilience Mindset podcast. Remember to subscribe to the podcast to get your weekly fix listening to Resilience Queen Justine Martin. Follow Justine on social media @Resilience Mindset or log on to justinemartin.com.au. And until next time, remember, life doesn't get easier or more forgiving. We get stronger and more resilient.